Back again, sisters and brothers. Welcome. This is the seventh session in the retreat. I hope you're getting a lot out of it. I really hope that you're spending time in prayer and reflection before you start the session, so that the Lord will help you to get anything good out of this nonsense clown of a person. and, and you'll be blessed in spite of me. Also, that you're spending time in reflection before you read the Word of God. Very, very important. Learning to find quiet time. And we've got time, right? People, we've got time, more time than we've had. Now, gross assumption, there's a lot of folks out there who are working 12-hour days, working very hard. And so keep them in prayer. We feel stranded and we're complaining and getting antsy, and that's to be expected. But to keep them in prayer too. So those are the important things in terms of your prayer and your preparation. Always a tilling, always a watering, always a nurturing, and then the pruning. Now in terms of the pruning, I've referred to the things that need to be stripped away, the things that aren't of God. One of the things that needs to be stripped away, and I think the Lord needs to prune it very frequently, just like a branch that comes out at odd times. If you know anything about pruning, those take care of trees and bushes and fruit trees. You prune at different times of the season for different reasons in terms of the growth. You want a hardier tree. You want it to bear more fruit when you're pruning in the late winter, okay, as opposed to when you're pruning in the summer. There's a different result. You'd never want to prune in the autumn because they're getting their nutrients from their leaves, okay, so that you don't prune in the autumn, you just don't. Some times you don't prune in the winter or in the dead of winter. Some plants you do because they're dormant and that's the time, but other times you don't if it's because they're not able to heal well, okay? But the Lord does that at different stages in our life. And one of the attitudes that we have is that we're not capable. The Lord can't use me because I'm such a sinner. The Lord can't use me because I'm incapable. Moses's comments, since Moses was a stutterer, he didn't speak clearly. Of course, Aaron became the mouthpiece. We make excuses all the time. I'm too young. Okay, I guess that was Jeremiah's lament. Whatever the excuses, we think that we have to have it all together. And once I've got it all together, the Lord's going to use me. Okay? Well, that's never going to happen because we're never going to have it all together. I'm a sinner. I love myself too much sometimes. I reflect upon me and my needs, my ego. I am not aware of the woundedness of people around me, and I sin. We spoke about relationship. Well, sometimes we're so intimidated by our lack of intimate relationship. We don't have enough nurturing relationships. We're intimidated by all relationships, and we become self-conscious instead of forgetting ourselves. Okay, and the Lord's going to use us just the way we are, and that is going to be kind of the key to this reading. We're going to look at. We're going to continue from the 6th session here in the 7th session, and we're going to look at the English translation, the Greek translation, and then the Spanish translation as well, for those of you who know Spanish. And this is following the story of, Jesus is cooking breakfast for them. We're picking up right there. He's going to pull John aside. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the Greek and the Spanish side by side. So let me get my iPad queued up for that. So they're going to be side by side, and we'll see how that works. I want you to place particular emphasis upon our sense. You know, there are different words for love in Greek. We know phileo where we get Philadelphia, and so the city of brotherly love, the prefix phileo, Philadelphia, and that's the verb. The other form of love is agape, and we use that all the time. Agape is the word used in 1 Corinthians 13, and we see that as a divine love. As it's a bit different, and so I want you to pay attention to the Greek text and then the Spanish text for those of you who speak Spanish, and we're going to listen to the fact that Jesus responds to Peter where he's at, and that's important. Let's see. So we are continuing the story. So we're still in John, the Gospel of John, chapter 21. We're starting on verse 15. Hoteun heristeison, after they had eaten breakfast, legeto Simon Petru ho Jesus. Jesus says to Simon Peter, Simon Ioannou, agapasme me pleon tuton. Do you love me more than these others? Legeoto. He said to him, Nai kurie, yes, Lord. Su oidos hoti philose. Yes, Lord, you know that I love you. Philose. So he asks, agapasme? And Peter answers, philose. In Spanish, let's see. Terminando el desayuno, after breakfast, finishing breakfast, Jesús le preguntó a Simón Pedro, he said, Simon Peter, Simón, hijo de Juan, Simon, son of John, ¿me amas más que estos? Amar. Pedro le contestó, sí, Señor, tú sabes que te quiero. Te quiero. ¿Me amas? Te quiero. And so, in English, we only have love, just love, the same word. So it comes off the same way. When they had finished breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? He said to him, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. We assume it's the same word. Okay, so now for the second time. And of course, the response of feed my lambs. Bosketa arniamu, feed my lambs. Lege auto palin, he said to him again, deuteron, a second time. Simon Ioannou, agapasme, lege, agapasme, Simon, son of John, do you love me? He said to him, Nai kurie, yes, Lord. Su oidas hoti philose, philose. And again, in the Spanish, volvió a preguntarle, Simón, hijo de Juan, ¿me amas? Pedro le contestó, sí, Señor, tú sabes que te quiero. Jesús le dijo, cuida de mis ovejas. Care for my sheep. This translation says, feed my sheep. Okay. Then the third time. And Jesus adjusts. Maybe Peter's not getting it. Maybe Peter's not ready yet. Lege auto totritan, he said to him a third time. Simon Ioannou, Simon, son of John, phileis me? Of course, then we know that he continues, yes, he does love him. But Jesus changed the question. He's no longer asking agapas me. And of course, Peter gets upset. He's impatient that he asked him a third time. Eleutheni o Petros hoti epen autototriton. Phileis me, he asked him phileis. But he didn't ask him phileis me 3 times. He said, agapas me, phileis me. Kalega auto. And he said to him, Kurie, panta su oidas, you know everything. Su gignoskes hoti philose, you know that I love you. Spanish, it sounds a little bit different, but it's the same thing. Por tercera vez le preguntó, Simón, hijo de Juan, ¿me quieres? Pedro, triste, porque le había preguntado por tercera vez si lo quería, le contestó, Señor, tú lo sabes todo, tú sabes que te quiero. Jesús le dijo, cuida de mis ovejas. Take care of my sheep. Now, I'm not going to pretend that I'm capable of doing any kind of serious exegesis here, but I do know enough about Greek. I'm not no scholar by any means, and I do know enough about Spanish, even though my Spanish is terrible, that the word changed, and Jesus changed the question. My sense is he knew that Peter wasn't ready. And as we continue the discourse, Jesus talks about, Peter, you will follow me, and you're going to be led down a path that you don't want to go. And a sense of telling Peter what's going to happen. But more than all of that deep stuff, just in the words, John thought it was important to have those words and to show that there was a difference and that Jesus adjusted. Jesus does that for us all the time. We're constantly making excuses. We're constantly thinking of ourselves with a lack of humility. Oh, I'm not capable of this, and I'm not capable of that. False humility is actually spiritual pride. Because what's happening is when the Lord has given me gifts and I feel called and I'm doing these things for the Lord and people compliment me, pat me on the back, I'm actually really into that and I'm taking credit. And those are my strengths and I want to lead with my good foot, my best step, confidently. And in humility, there's just this awareness, any good that the Lord's going to do, He's going to use me no matter what. I don't have to arrive at some level and now He's going to use me. I had made reference a few sessions ago that I'm not anti-intellectual, but I am anti-scholastic. And one of the reasons for that is I find that we spend so much time getting degrees and buttressing up our credentials in the church that the heart of the gospel message and the spiritual formation necessary is not going hand in hand with that. And that has been a fallacy, I think, in seminary development, and that I've seen firsthand. A notion of what your education level should be and how knowledgeable you should be, and the degrees that you hold, and the nurturance and the spiritual direction specifically is not going hand in hand with that. And you know what it is when you haven't learned from your mistakes, because you don't even know it's an error. We do the same thing in our lack of spiritual formation for laity. And so what happens is lay people take on all of the negative tendencies that exist in our priests. So if there was a pastor who had everyone under their thumb, and this is what leadership is, and you got this nice pyramid of the hierarchy of the church, well, all of a sudden you get lay people who've been formed under that model, not under a servant model, which so many of our priests do. So I don't want to just slam the priests. So many of our priests are servants, but that's very rare. The ones who've been formed under this hierarchical model do the same thing to their fellow lay people. I'm the expert. I'm the one that has a degree. I'm the one that has the credential. And they turn their nose up at other people. When the holiest people in our church are the grandmothers and grandfathers and uncles and aunts who are doing simple, loving tasks, putting others first their whole lives, those are the holy saints of the church, not all the scholars and people with the credentials. Okay. Now, with that said, it doesn't mean that we don't learn scripture, we don't learn church history, we don't learn theology, we don't study. We're responsible to learn all of these things, okay? We're responsible to form ourselves and to have good formation. What I'm saying is lacking is the spiritual formation that goes along with that. Big heads and little hearts doesn't help anybody, okay? It really doesn't. And the pride and arrogance that go along with that doesn't help. Now that I'll get off my soapbox, that's why I'm addressing this. This is a time for us simple folk, okay, to respond in love and obedience. And when I say love and obedience, what I'm saying is, as I encourage you to spend time in prayer, how is the Lord going to use me? How am I going to respond in love? And how am I going to just get rid of my control over things? One of the wonderful gifts we have as laity is to go to our pastors and find out what they need. Okay? We don't have to reinvent the wheel. Find out what they need. Go to our bishops and say, how may I be of service? That simple obedience gets out of the obligatory mindset, okay? And it puts us in the mindset that obedience is what leads us to fulfill God's will. That is freedom. I know a lot of priests that haven't got a clue what that means. They gripe and they grumble when their bishop tells them to do something. And there are bishops who gripe and complain. Obedience is a freedom, okay? It's a freedom from me and my going in circles, protecting my self-esteem and all of these things. It's an opportunity, like Ernie Nadia, my brother, shares in the training in his church. It's an opportunity to clean the toilets. It's an opportunity to wipe the tables clean. Hopefully not in that order, or you got to wash your hands. But anyway, to put the chairs up. I've got a story, very quick story, and I won't elaborate in it because I don't want you to find out who it was, because he might be embarrassed. But in touring, I've had an opportunity to tour, as kind of a sideman for different Christian artists. And there was one parish that we went to, and we were going to have a concert, mass, and then a concert. And it was the kind of church where you had to set up chairs. In some sections, you're going to have wider area, and it opened up wider, and then you put chairs away afterwards. Well, there was a guy who was a member of the parish, and he was a well-known TV star. And he was just quietly, humbly setting up chairs before the concert, and and before Mass. We celebrate Eucharist, and then after we have the concert. After the concert, he's there, one of the crew, putting up chairs, stacking them, moving them, and it's like, holy cow! And I felt really good getting to meet him, a little starstruck and all. But his humility, I was just so overwhelmed by that. What's needed? Okay, what's needed? Which gets us away from, I'm a music minister, and I'd love to get behind that microphone because my ego would really be fed. I'm a music minister, and so I'm going to play my best licks before Mass, and so everyone can hear me, instead of setting the example, and my music is prepared, and I tuned before everyone else came in, and now I'm in time reflecting. There are 1,000 things we do which detract, which do not bless, edify the church. So the last thing in understanding that you don't have to have it all together. And what's one way of doing that, as I've been encouraging you to ask the Lord, what are the needs in the people who are suffering, in the people in your neighborhood, going to your pastor, going to your bishop? What are the needs? And being obedient to that. And you may be asked to do something that's, I'd rather not. Comfort zones, get out of the comfort zones. And what I'm going to close with when I say doesn't edify the church, the one trap that we have to get out of is getting into ministries where I am edified. Oh, I was fed. Oh, there's such a, I'm going from place to place to place. Like for those of you who are into the Acts movement, like an Acts junkie wanting to work on one weekend after another. Personal edification, feed, and I will find some place that will feed me. Well, that's navel gazing 3101. Don't do it. Always look for things that will edify the body. My community, my parish, my diocese, my relationship with other Christians, as we work together to share a united vision of what the kingdom of God looks like right now. But it has to be done in humility. And believe me, brothers and sisters, the Lord will speak through you in humility volumes. Peter didn't get it. You don't have to get it either. You don't have to understand the whole picture. What Jesus wants from you is your yes. Your humble, obedient yes. He will take care of the rest. God bless you.